In this episode, we dive into 10 reasons why people find it hard to receive and how it's actually blocking abundance. Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, Season 4, where we are focusing on mastery. The last 3 seasons, I gave you the information. Now, we're focusing on integrating it into our lives and embodying it. If you are ready to master your thoughts, emotions, and patterns to feel whole, fulfilled, and really grounded in who you are without dimming your shine so you can live the abundant life that you truly desire, then you are in the right place. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? Today's topic is all about receiving. And if you want to live an abundant life, you have to be able to receive the abundance. So I have to be honest, I have so much to say on this topic. I took a lot of notes, and I'm probably going to have to break this episode up into 2 parts because I have that much to say. So let's dive right in. First, I have 10 reasons why people find it hard to receive, and then I want to touch on specific areas where they're not receiving, i.e. compliments. And we're going to dive into compliments and how usually women aren't comfortable receiving compliments. Okay, so let's dive right into the 10 reasons. So number 1 is pre-programming. So if you grew up hearing the phrase, it's better to give than receive, or you believe that if you receive too much, that makes you greedy or that makes you selfish, because these are things that you may have heard your parents or grandparents say. And so it's programmed in your subconscious and it's actually playing out in your adult life. So sometimes we don't have these phrases or beliefs in the forefront of our minds. They're programmed into our subconscious. So it's better to give than receive. If you're receiving and there's people that are without, that makes you greedy, that makes you selfish, that makes you a bad person. So these programmings in our subconscious could actually prevent us from receiving abundance. And that can show up as opportunities, that can show up as money, that can show up as wealth, just a number of different things. And we can actually have resistance and be blocking it energetically and then wondering, like, why is abundance not showing up for me? It could be because of pre-programming that is stored in our subconscious. Number 2 is insecurities. So this is someone, let's just say someone that doesn't feel attractive or doesn't feel pretty. And so if someone gives them a compliment, that makes them extremely uncomfortable, because even if someone else finds them pretty or someone says, "Oh my God, you look great today," but they don't feel attractive, that's going to be uncomfortable and they're not able to receive the love and the compliment and the words of affirmation that they were just given. Number 3 is self-worth. This is another one that I think is very subconscious, because I think in the forefront, we tend to have an outer layer of confidence. But I think that self-worth runs really, really deep. So there is, I feel like someone said like pseudo-confidence where a person can show up as they are the most confident person in the world and still have some internal self-worth issues that causes them to self-sabotage and not actually allow abundance into their life. And again, abundance can mean a number of things. It can be an abundance of love. It can be an abundance of opportunity, an abundance of excitement. So abundance doesn't have to pertain to one individual thing. So really feel into what abundance means for you in this topic of receiving. So I personally feel like self-worth is something that is really deep-rooted. And if we're talking about entrepreneurs, when it comes to imposter syndrome, they're not able to receive that next level of their business or their career. They're not able to receive a higher a higher income bracket. They're not able to raise their prices comfortably because they don't feel worthy of those things. And so they self-sabotage. And this all happens subconsciously. That's why the work that I do, shameless plug, that's why the work that I do with sound therapy is so powerful, because it is accessing your subconscious blocks and beliefs to where you can easily reprogram them. It's peeling back the layer. It's creating a thinner veil so you can see the things that are actually standing in your way. You can see those blind spots, because I don't think that self-worth is something that's on the surface. You have to do some inner work and peel some layers back to really get to the root cause of the lack of self-worth that you may be experiencing. And we all have areas that we need to work on our self-worth. All of us, even me. And I've shared on the podcast, for me, I was attaching so much of my self-worth to productivity, to my business, to my lifestyle. And I went through a dark night of the soul. Oh my God, if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it, because whew. But I went through a dark night of the soul and had so many things stripped away from me. And it was an opportunity for me to be like, okay, well, who am I? If I didn't have a business, if I didn't have my fancy, beautiful place in this gorgeous high-rise building, who am I? You know? So self-worth runs really, really deep. So number 4, we're actually going to dive even deeper. Oh my God, I love this. I'm so excited about this topic. And definitely let me know what comes up for you as you are listening to this. You can definitely reach out to me on Instagram at Niajae. Okay, number 4 is the fear of intimacy or connection. So, you guys, I've shared recently that connection is my top value. And I have also shared that I feel like society today, we're connected on the surface because we have social media. So we can get to anyone in the world through Facebook. I can talk to people in different countries. You guys are listening to me from Australia and Africa and the UK while I'm here in Florida. So we have this connection on the surface, but we're actually craving connection, a deeper connection. And I think that because we are starving for connection, we have convinced ourselves that we don't really need it. And so when we do have someone that is giving us affection, giving us words of affirmation, giving us a compliment, it's throwing up a red flag, because we have gotten so accustomed to not having deep connections and true intimacy. And I mean true intimacy, not the surface stuff, but true intimacy. And when I say intimacy, I'm referring to connection and not sex. I just have to say that. I mean sex as well, but specifically like anyone that has a connection, it's an intimate relationship. So if you are getting to know someone, you're understanding the good, the bad, and the ugly about them, what makes them tick, that is an intimate connection. That is an intimate relationship. So intimacy doesn't always refer to just sex. I just want to put that out there because I'm sure some people's minds went to the gutter. Okay, so the fear of intimacy or connection. I personally feel that this society is craving, like literally starving for connection and intimacy, that to the point where it's caused this void. And what we tend to do is convince ourselves that we don't need something when we're actually deprived of it. And so then when someone comes around and they're offering that intimacy and that connection and that love and support and nurturing, it's like, holy shit, what is this? Like, what is this? And people run from it because it's scary. It's scary. We're able to hide behind our TV screens and our phones and all of our electronic devices to where we're not connecting how we used to. And so when someone does try to connect, it's like we don't even know how to receive it. We don't even know how to receive it. So someone called me the other day and I literally stared at my phone because I was like, who is calling me? Because people don't call anymore. They text or they message you on social media. So I was looking at my phone thinking, this must be a butt dial. This must be a butt dial. Like, why are they calling me? And when the phone stopped ringing, I messaged them and I was like, was that a butt dial? They're like, no, I was calling you. Like, that is how disconnected we actually are. So that's on a very surface level. Then when we get to a deeper level, like, let's talk about romantic relationships. When it comes to romantic relationships and you have someone that is conscious and loving and supportive and they're not playing hard to get and they're not, oh, let me not call them, let me not show them how I truly feel because I don't want to scare them off. You showing someone how you truly feel and making yourself available for a connection with them should not scare anyone off. Period. If you are single, I want you to hear that again, okay? So we have gotten so far away from connection and intimacy that society says, oh, if you like a girl, don't come on too strong or you'll scare her away. Or if you like a guy and you show him too much too soon, it'll scare him away. That is bullshit that is keeping us away from connection, okay? To where we're not able to actually receive it. When someone does show up in their divine energy, when a man shows up in his divine masculine, when a woman shows up in her divine feminine, and they are there and ready for connection and intimacy, most people don't even know how to receive that, and they run. It is insane, which is why I say we are deprived of connection and intimacy. You guys, I told you I had a lot to say about this topic. Okay. Number 5 is the fear of abandonment. Okay. This one, I will be very honest with you. This is something for me that I've had to deal with myself. So this is the fear of abandonment. This is when you don't want to get used to receiving something from someone, because what if that someone disappears or is no longer around or is no longer able or willing to do the thing? So it's like, why get used to receiving this thing if this person isn't going to be around? Because I don't want to get used to receiving it and then not have it. And this one is huge for me because, I've had to deal with my abandonment issues over the years. So it's like, if someone's constantly giving you a compliment and then they stop giving you a compliment, when they stop, you're going to be like, do you not love me anymore? Do you not find me pretty anymore? Like, what is the deal? So that fear of abandonment can actually make it difficult for someone to actually receive because they're afraid that it won't be consistent and it'll be painful if they are no longer receiving that thing. So, you guys, this runs deep. Okay, so number 6 is the fear of not having control. So if someone gives you something or makes you feel good, you actually soften. And when people soften, it makes them more vulnerable. And society, unfortunately, paints vulnerability as weakness. Now, we have Brene Brown that is doing the work to reprogram this, and I love her work. You guys know I talk about Brene Brown all the time. I just finished the Dare to Lead certification. So she is doing the work to make sure that society isn't painting vulnerability as weakness, because it's not. It takes courage to be vulnerable. However, that fear of losing control of your hard exterior or losing control of your armor or your guard will actually prevent you from being able to receive, because you don't want to be vulnerable, because people paint vulnerability as weakness, but it's not. Actually releasing the armor, letting down the guard, and opening your heart to receive, that takes courage. That takes courage. That's where the strong energy is. That is where the resilience comes in, the ability to show up with an open heart. It's easy to armor up. It's easy to have a guard. But like I say, when you're guarded, it's not only keeping out the pain, it's also keeping out the love. So if you want to receive love and support and nurturing and care, you have to open your heart. You have to open your heart. And when you open your heart, unfortunately, you lose control. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's true. And I mean, when I say you lose control, we hold our hearts so tightly. You see when people are like hunched over because they're guarding themselves, because they want to try to control what happens to your heart. But the thing is, we have to build emotional resiliency, because things are going to challenge us. Things are going to cause us pain. And the thing is, we survive. We are such strong, resilient beings. And there are certain things in life that are unavoidable. Like death, like at a certain age, you start losing your parents and friends and stuff like that. So unfortunately, we have to build that emotional resiliency for the pain and challenges that come with life. They're unavoidable. So rather than guarding your heart, open your heart and practice receiving and practice courage to come back, like to bounce back if something knocks you down. That's what we have to do. We have to remain open. It requires more strength and more resilience to remain open, no matter how many times life kicks us. It may sound messed up, but it's like, and honestly, I had a moment. I'm getting a little sidetracked, so I'm getting off of my notes here, but this is a good story. So I had a moment not that long ago where something happened that really hurt me deeply. And I had a rough year. You guys know. If you've been listening to the podcast, I've had a really challenging year. From losing my fur baby, my car broke down. So I had a custom painted car. It was like this purplish pinkish color that was just like so beautiful. But it was an old car. But because it was custom painted back from my music days, I had a lot of emotional attachment to this car. So this past year, I went through a breakup. I lost my fur baby. My car broke down, freaking just like parting ways with the yoga studio I was operating my business out of. I mean, the list goes on. My mom had a health scare recently. So it's been a rough year. I have gotten my ass kicked this year so brutally. And something happened that was like a kick when I felt like I was already down. And I was just like, this is KO for me. Like, this is KO for me. Like, I literally, like, I can't get back up. Like this, I am knocked down and I cannot get back up. And I had a moment where I was just like, yep, that's it. This is taking me out. Like, I can't do it anymore. But I sat in that moment for like one night. I was like sad. And then I got up the next day and I was okay. It took me a little bit to get going the next day, but I lived through it. And a few days later, I was back to my bubbly self. And that is the emotional resilience that I'm talking about. When you have tools like sound therapy, like yoga, like tapping, whatever it is that floats your boat, when you can turn to these modalities to help you through those hard times, you don't stay down as long. You don't stay down as long because life is going to knock you down. It's just having the proper tools to pick yourself back up and keep going. And it's really funny because I was talking to a friend after, and I put that little GIF from Hangover where he's like, "But did you die?" Because I'm telling you that like that last, like, it felt like a kick in the gut. Like, I was just like, yeah, this is KO for me. Like, I can't take another hit. Like, I'm done. But I got back up. And there's going to be times where life feels like that. Like, yep, I've been knocked down the last time and I cannot get back up. But we have tools in our tool belt, like sound therapy, for example, whatever floats your boat, but obviously I'm biased to sound therapy, that help us with those heavy emotions, because everyone experiences heavy emotions. And I know that in a world of social media, it seems like, oh my God, life is so much easier for everyone else. Everyone else is in a happy relationship. Everyone else has a thriving business. Everyone else is like fit and cute, and everyone else is excited and joyful and enjoying life. Why do I feel these heavy emotions? Why am I experiencing this pain? Why am I experiencing this void or this yearning for something more? Let me just tell you, you are not alone, and we all feel it, and we all experience it. We just don't all talk about it. I talk about it because I share everything with you guys on this podcast, but a lot of people are not talking about it, but they're going through the same thing, because there are certain things in life that are unavoidable. We get our hearts broken. We get our hearts trampled on. And we have to build that emotional resilience to be able to pick ourselves back up. But the purpose of me sharing this story is if I allowed that situation to cause me to close my heart and guard myself and armor up, then I would not be open to receive the love, to receive the support, to receive the excitement and juiciness that life has to offer, to receive the abundance. So you have to pick yourself back up. Ask yourself, but did you die? And keep going with an open heart. It's so important. It's so important. Okay, I got way off track. Number 7 is the fear of strings attached. So this kind of speaks to the pre-programming as well. If you were raised to believe that people always want things in return, I was told this as a child. I grew up in New York, okay? So New Yorkers are like, nope, don't trust this. Nobody does anything for you for free, or nobody does things nice without an ulterior motive. Like, I was raised this way. Like, New York, you don't trust anyone. So yeah, believing that people always have ulterior motives. That is a huge block. When I moved down south, I moved to Atlanta, and there were nice people in Atlanta. Okay, let me just paint a picture. So in New York, if you smile at someone, they're probably going to want to fight you, okay? So just imagine me being a New Yorker, like in Atlanta, where there's Southern hospitality and people are smiling and saying hi and opening the door for you. I got to Atlanta and I was just like, why are people staring at me? Like, and I just realized that like people are friendly. There are nice people in the world, you know? And this was kind of a culture shock. And I haven't lived in New York in a really long time, so I don't know what it's like today, but this is in my childhood, you know, like me growing up as like a preteen, and child in New York, like these are the things that you're taught, especially being like in a train station. Like you don't look at people, you don't stare at them, you damn sure don't smile at them because they're going to want to fight you because they're going to think you're up to something. So this was ingrained in me. And so when I moved to Atlanta, I had to reprogram that because there is Southern hospitality. People in Atlanta were friendly, especially to me. I mean, I don't know anyone else's experience, but I can only speak from my experience. People walk by and say hello, they smile at you, good morning. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm about this life. I will take it because I am naturally, ooh, this is so good, you guys. I'm so off track, by the way, but this is so good. So this is a prime example of nature versus nurture. Like being raised in New York programmed me to be a certain way, but I am naturally at my core, without my environment, a happy, bubbly person. But New York kind of hardened me. And so this is why inner work is so important, to get back to who you are at your core, because I followed the standards of a New Yorker, but as soon as I was placed in a different environment that really allowed me to be who I truly am at my core and bubbly, like I am that person where I wake up, I am chipper and happy and like bubbly, and I don't drink coffee. I wake up with so much energy. You guys have no idea. You have literally no idea. But like I am that bubbly, happy person. So imagine how stifled I felt in New York with me being that bubbly person, where like you can't just like be happy and bubbly in New York. So it's really important to do the inner work to really get to know yourself on a deeper level, to know who you truly are, to get back to who you are at your core without the programming, without the environmental influences. It's so freaking important. Okay, number 8 is the fear of appearing selfish. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you were raised to believe that you having all these things when there are people that are lacking makes you a bad person, it makes you selfish, it makes you greedy. Okay, so I know that a lot of people struggle with this. This is going to be one that I feel like a lot of people struggle with. So there are a lot of people that are in lack in this world. Period. There are. However, you not having something that you desire doesn't change the lack in the world. It really doesn't. So if you choose not to eat a meal today, does that mean that someone else is not going to be hungry on the street? Probably not. I mean, if you actually give your meal to them, maybe. But other than that, it's not going to change the world on a massive level. And everything is an ebb and flow. So if you're pouring into the world, then you have to receive to keep that ebb and flow process going. I feel like I say this quote every single episode, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour from an empty cup. When you receive and you allow in, that fills your cup, so you are able to give and do more. So for me, I've gotten really clear on my basic needs, like my bare minimums. Like if you want me to show up and live my purpose and do these things, this is what I need. I need these things taken care of. My basic bare minimum needs, and then the things that keep me happy and motivated and perky and bubbly. Like you have to be able to receive. And again, that receiving could look a lot of different ways for people, because this could very well be money. Like a lot of people are programmed to feel like, oh, there are starving kids in a world, so I don't need to make a whole bunch of money. Why not? Why not? Why not go and make a whole bunch of money so you can donate to your favorite charity that you feel passionately about? Why not? Why not work to be a millionaire so you can go and provide food for a struggling city? You know, why not? So I really think that This is another one that runs really, 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 really deep. And if you were raised to believe that like money is the root to all evil, and it's not. Money is not the root to all evil. It's greed. It's greed, but I think that greed is something that is very subjective because people think that it's not okay to have an excess, but it's like, think about the ocean. This is just what came to me. I did not write this in my notes. Like, I'm getting like massive downloads, but think about the ocean. Like, there's an excess of water because life is abundant. Life is abundant. Like, this world, this universe, it is abundant. There is excess. There is always more. So you being without doesn't take from someone else. And this is something that I think is so powerful to really let sink into your soul, your being on a cellular level. Like, life is abundant and there is always more. There is always more. There is enough money to go around. There is enough love to go around. There's enough compliments to go around. There's enough clients to go around. If you are in a lack mindset or a mentality because you feel if you allow abundance, that's going to make you appear selfish or greedy, there is some reprogramming to do on a subconscious level because energetically that is blocking your abundance. And let me know how you feel about this. Definitely reach out on Instagram at Niajae because I feel like these are all things that I can literally create individual episodes about. So definitely let me know how you feel about that. Okay, number 9 is a self-imposed pressure to reciprocate. So this one runs deep. And what I think about this just off the top of my head is when it comes to relationships. So when it comes to intimacy, and this intimacy, I'm actually talking about sex. And it's all adults that listens to this, so like don't get squirmish because we're going to talk about sex for a second. But I want you to think about if your partner has ever come to you and just wanted to please you and said, "Baby, tonight is just about you." Do you feel the need to reciprocate? Or can you just allow the pleasure, like, "Okay, thanks, boo," and lay back, enjoy, and then go to sleep? Like, can you do that? I will bet most people cannot. Now, there's probably some men that probably can, but let's be honest, ladies. Can you just be like, "Thanks, babe," and go to sleep without feeling obligated to reciprocate? Most women cannot. Because we're not in the receiving mode. We're so in our masculine these days. We're not in that receiving mode. We're not in our divine feminine. And so it runs so deep. But even just the programming of it, of feeling like people always want something in return, if you have that programming, that is shaping your reality. People always want something in return. Sometimes they don't. Most of the time, okay, so here's the thing. Law of attraction. If you believe people always want something in return, that is what you're going to attract. When I moved to Atlanta and I started seeing that, like, people are actually really nice. There are nice people in the world. That's what I started attracting because I started noticing nice people. I started noticing people who were just genuinely nice, So again, it's another subconscious thing that if you feel like people always want something in return, that is a limiting belief or block that is blocking your abundance. Okay, number 10 is the fear of them not delivering. Okay, I had to add this in there because this is actually this is actually one that is another one that I've had to work on personally. So if you've listened to my daddy issues episode, I had a dad that would come around and make promises and then not deliver. He would be like, oh, I love you. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. And then disappear. And then show up and be like, oh, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to do this. I'm here for you. If you need anything, let me know. And then disappear. So it created this pattern of me not believing that someone would do something for me. So I wasn't in the receiving mode. I wasn't receptive to anyone helping me because I didn't believe that they would deliver. So this was a huge block in abundance because I never believed that the person was going to do the thing that they were saying they were going to do. So this doesn't align with like a compliment, but like the receiving mode of like someone offering help, for example, like, oh, are you moving? I can come help you. I wouldn't believe that. And because I didn't believe it, it created resistance. And then usually something happened to where they couldn't show up because energetically I had so much resistance because I didn't believe that they were going to actually deliver. So it's really important. It's funny because I have clients that come in for a sound bath or like an energy analysis, and they'll say something that's like happening in their current life, and I'll ask them about their childhood. And they're like, I don't know, who knows? Like, whatever, that was a long time ago. Like, how is that showing up now? It's because we have these subconscious things that are stored in our body, in our chakras, in our energy fields, in our DNA. The stuff is stored in us that energetically is blocking the things that we actually desire. It's blocking the abundance because our receiving mode isn't on. We're not in a place to receive the things that we truly want. And I wrote this in my notes, open your receiving receptors. So your receiving receptors have to be activated to allow the things into your reality. And we have so many things blocking it. So you guys, I told you, this was going to be a long episode because I had so much to say about it. But here's the big thing. Here's the big thing. All of these are protection mechanisms or defense mechanisms that are actually preventing the abundance, the love, the excitement, the pleasure that we desire. And these protection mechanisms are no longer working. It is time to shift your paradigm so you can stop blocking the love and connection and intimacy and pleasure that you actually desire. So doing the work, really peeling back the layers to figure out which of these 10 you have experienced. Maybe it's one or two of them. Maybe it's all of them. And really doing the work to reprogram your beliefs and really tap into that subconscious so you can replace it with, there actually are nice people in the world. It's okay for me to receive pleasure from my partner. I'm worthy of it being all about me tonight. I don't have to reciprocate tonight if it's all about me. Like, let it be just about you. There's nothing wrong with that. You are worthy of that. You deserve that. This is a reminder that you are an abundant being. Abundance is your birthright. If it is a true desire from your heart and not from social programming or ego, if it's truly a desire from your heart, the universe wants to provide it. It is already in your vortex. You just have to open yourself up to receive it and become a vibrational match. You are worthy. You are enough. We've gone over 10 reasons why people find it hard to receive. So what I want to do now is talk about specific things that people have a hard time receiving. The first one is compliments. And I'm sure that this happens with men, but this is something especially especially prevalent in women. When women receive a compliment and they're not actually comfortable with it, what they tend to do is diminish it. So I'll give you an example. This actually happened to me recently. I said to a woman, "Oh my God, I love the texture of your hair." And rather than her saying thank you and really receiving the compliment, she said, "Oh, it's so frizzy today." And we tend to do that with our nails, with our hair, just different things. We diminish the actual compliment rather than just accepting it. So really start to pay attention to your response when you receive a compliment. Do you say thank you and allow that compliment to make you feel good? Or do you downplay whatever the compliment is? If someone says, "Oh, I love your outfit," "Oh, this old thing," like, don't diminish it. Really just own and accept and receive that compliment. Another thing that happens is, and this is, I feel more prevalent in women than men, but we feel obligated to return a compliment. So when people say, "Oh, I love your outfit," they feel obligated to say, "I love your outfit too." And we don't have to do that. And I mean, if you genuinely have a compliment to return, then totally do it, but don't feel obligated. Make sure that it's genuine, make sure that it's authentic, and don't do it out of obligation, because it's not authentic and genuine. If someone says, "Oh, I love the texture of your hair," "Oh, I love your hair too." You don't have to return a compliment. Receive it and just be happy that someone gave you a compliment. So I think that some people are not comfortable being in the spotlight, or some people are not comfortable with receiving words of affirmation, but really, really allow yourself to bask in that feeling and accept it and become comfortable with receiving. So another thing that people find it hard to receive are gifts. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't need gifts," or "I don't need you to do anything for me." Or if they receive a gift, they say, "Oh, you shouldn't have." What does that even mean? You shouldn't have? If someone wants to buy you a gift, it's actually impolite to say, "Oh, you shouldn't have." Say thank you. Say, "I'm grateful. Oh, thank you so much for thinking of me." Like, these are ways people are showing their love and compassion and gratitude for you. So saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have," is you actually creating resistance and blocks to receiving. And not only is that sending a message to people, but it's sending a message to the universe that you're not in that receiving mode. So it's going to stop sending you things. It's going to stop sending you opportunities and people that actually value you and want to nurture and support you. It's going to stop sending you abundance. So when the universe is trying to provide abundance in your life and you're like, "Oh, you shouldn't have," the universe is like, "Oh, okay, well, let's go give this abundance to someone who is in the receiving mode, who's going to be grateful for it." So really start to pay attention to how you respond when someone offers you something, whether it's a compliment, whether it's a gift. The next one, this is huge. The next one is help. This is such a huge one. And a lot of this comes from our pre-programming. If you were someone who had to be self-sufficient and fend for yourself as a child before you were actually ready to, because you had an absent parent, because you had a parent that worked and wasn't around, whatever the case may be, then you felt like if something has to get done, you have to do it on your own. And when you establish that belief in your subconscious, it reflects in your adult life. So you're not comfortable receiving help. But the reality is you cannot do it all on your own. And people try and they struggle and things are hard. So one of the biggest things, and I actually write this on my whiteboard, allow it to be easy. There's always someone out there willing to help. We just have to be in the receiving mode and have those receiving receptors on in order for it to come into our reality. So you can struggle and try to do all the things all on your own and wear all the hats, but life is going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be lonely. There are nice people out there willing to help that don't want anything in return, that don't have an ulterior motive. And when you start to believe that, then they show up. The universe provides that. Literally, our reality is created by our subconscious beliefs. So if you believe no one helps me, no one's there, that is what's going to reflect in your reality. So being open to the help. And I'll share a quick story with you. So I was listening to April Mason, who I'm going to try to get on the show very soon. And she was telling a story about how when you are stepping into your divine feminine, you're in your feminine essence, you should allow help in all areas. So she brought up Publix. Now, Publix is a grocery store, just in case you don't have a Publix where you are. So Publix is a grocery store. And when you are checking out, the person who bags your groceries actually asks, would you like help taking your bags to your car? Now, before I listened to this episode that April Mason posted about femininity, I would think, like, no, like I'm young and strong and fit. Like I can take my own bags to my car. Now, someone who's older or disabled or, maybe has a child with them, then to me in my head previously, I would think like, okay, that's understandable. But me, I move fast. I'm quick. I'm strong. I really don't need the help. However, that is me blocking help. So I may not need help in that area, but there's other areas that I can definitely use help with. But by me turning down that help, it's sending the message to the universe, or even just energetically, that I am not in the receiving mode of help. So now, and I'll be really honest with you guys. I went to Publix the other day and I was just waiting. For them to ask me if I needed help to my car so I could be like, yes, please, and thank you. But in the time of me recording this, we're actually in a holiday season, so Publix was jam-packed and there wasn't an extra person to help me to my car. But I was literally waiting for that moment so I can just really get into that receiving mode, to really start to pay attention when someone is offering help. And for the ladies, this is huge. Allow the men to open the door for you. Allow the men to open the car door for you. I believe in chivalry. I'm going to tell you, so I'm dating right now. And if a man does not open my door and does not open a car door for me, he's not getting another date. Period. We have to get back into our femininity. We have to step back into that divine feminine and allowing men to rise up into their divine masculine. So allowing that help. And it's not about whether we're capable. This is the thing about femininity, because when it comes to the groceries in Publix, I'm just like, I'm more than capable of taking my own bags to the car. However, allowing that help and allowing it to be easy and allowing the process to be pleasurable. Why lift some heavy grocery bags if I don't have to? Allow that grocery trip to be easy and effortless and seamless. Life can be easy. Allow it to be easy. M&Ms, I want you to write this down. I literally have this on my whiteboard. So if you don't have a whiteboard, put it on a Post-it note and tape it to your mirror. Put it in your journal, put it in your notepad, on your phone, wherever you need to put it so you see it every day. Allow it to be easy. When we are programmed for life being hard. And I tried to stop saying this, like life is hard. I find myself saying that a lot. And especially with everything that's been going on in the world with the pandemic, life has felt really hard lately. But there are a lot of areas where we can allow it to be easy. So when we have things that are uncontrollable, like a pandemic, allow the things that are in your control to be easy. Allow the help. Allow someone to hold the door for you. Allow the Publix or grocery store, person that bags your bags to help you to your car. Allow it to be easy. So it's really, really important to start paying attention to where you're allowing help or where you're resisting the help. Okay, so the next one is tips. So depending upon what type of business you have, now with my sound therapy, I have a service-based business. So I have a group, Sound Therapy Network, where I'm helping sound healers and practitioners start, maintain, and grow their sound therapy business. And one of my members shared in the group that she's not comfortable receiving tips. Someone handing her cash feels uncomfortable to her. So what I want to say about this is everything is an ebb and flow. And there's reciprocity. If you are in a service-based business and someone is blown away by the service that you just provided, there is absolutely nothing wrong with them giving you a tip. If anything, that should be a moment of intense gratitude for the fact that you did such a great job that they want to pay you even more. That's amazing. That is amazing. And so making sure that you're not blocking the energy of someone wanting to give to you and compensate you for your services. Like that is a really great thing. So being in that receptive mode, because if you are feeling uncomfortable with receiving money, that sends the message energetically. It's in your energetic field that you're blocking the money from coming. You're blocking the abundance. And so the universe isn't going to continue to send you money and opportunity and clients that want to tip you. And so it's really important that we start paying attention to these things so we can get in that receiving mode, so we can turn on those receiving receptors. And so here is the biggest thing that I want you to understand. If we were deprived something as a child, it's stored in our subconscious, it's stored in our DNA, it's stored in our chakras, it's stored in our body, in our energetic field. And then we subconsciously deprive ourselves of these things as an adult. So it's really important to start to pay attention to that. So I used to say, words of affirmation was my least love language. And you know why? Here is why. Because I never received words of affirmation as a child. So I got to the point to where I said I don't need it. I had to become self-sufficient. I had to self-soothe and learn how to operate without the words of affirmation. I had to learn to operate without words of affirmation. So as an adult, I'm programmed to believe that words of affirmation is my least love language. But it's not. It's not. It's just from the programming of being raised with an absent dad and with a critical mom who never told me good job. She never offered any encouragement or words of affirmation. So I learned how to survive without it. So it's really, really important that you peel back these layers and you do the inner work to really identify who you are at your core and what you truly desire. Every time I write something about desires, I always say truly desire, because there's a surface level that we have been programmed to believe. And I said this on a previous episode about the love languages. I don't believe we should have a top love language, like a primary love language and a secondary love language. I believe we should be open to receiving love in all 5 ways. Usually when someone says, usually when someone says physical touch is my least love language, like it's bottom on the list, like of all 5, it's usually because they didn't receive affection as a child. And so they learned how to survive and be without it. There's something that's uncomfortable or painful when it comes to touch. But here is the reality, and I want you guys to hear me when I say this. We need all 5. And they're going to come into play at different times, but we should be in a receiving mode of all 5 love languages, period. That is what I believe. And different times, some are going to be more important than others for sure, but don't place yourself in a box by saying, oh, I have a primary love language and a secondary love language, and not pay attention to when you're receiving the other 3. Because that, again, is blocking the abundance that the universe is trying to give you. They're not going to send you people that are going to love you in all the ways if you're blocking it. Whew. Okay. So the next one is feedback. Now, feedback, again, is something that I can do a whole entire episode on. And this is something that Brené Brown talks about a lot, because feedback can tend to invoke embarrassment, guilt, and shame in us. So here's what I want to say. First, let me break down the difference between embarrassment, guilt, and shame. So embarrassment is feeling bad about something, but it's not that big of a deal because you know that other people have experienced this. You know, everyone's gone through this once in their life. Guilt is feeling like I did something bad. And shame is feeling I am bad. So they're definitely different levels. So when people are receiving feedback, it's almost like it's invoking one of these things in the person. They can feel that they're bad. They can feel that they did something bad. And here's what I want to say about feedback. It doesn't reflect who you are as a person. So let's say you receive some constructive criticism or some feedback that wasn't positive. It doesn't reflect who you are as a person. It doesn't define you. And I used to like to say this as a kid because it has a curse word in it, but opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, right? So knowing that people, their opinion is usually from their perspective through the lens of their own stuff. So most people are not able to give feedback from an objective standpoint that's like not biased. So knowing that whoever's providing feedback, it's from their perspective and it doesn't define who you are. So a lot of times we're not able to receive feedback without it like stinging or feeling like a jab. So really just knowing that like, okay, you know who you are and you know how you feel about whatever the feedback is presented, and not needing that external validation. So when people do provide feedback that may not be positive, it doesn't feel like a sting. And just still saying thank you. Thank you for taking time to provide feedback. Thank you for sharing with me how you feel. And you don't have to let that sink in. You don't have to take it to heart. So receiving feedback is, again, like I said, I can do a whole podcast episode on it. So if any of these stand out to you and you want me to do a full episode on it, definitely let me know. Slide up in my DMs on Instagram and let me know, because I love to dive deeper into all of these. And then the next one is pleasure. People not being able to receive pleasure. This is huge. I'm not an expert on like sex, like when it comes to intimacy, like actual sex intimacy. I'm not an expert on talking about that area, but I am happy to get someone on the show that is. So feeling comfortable receiving pleasure. There's a lot of people, and let me just tell you, this is prevalent in women, they're not comfortable receiving pleasure. And again, this goes back to you're so used to sexual encounters not being pleasurable, you've convinced yourself that you don't need it. And this is not everyone, but this is most women. If you look up the statistics of how many women actually have orgasms when they have sex, it will blow your mind. I'm like, men, what are you doing? Like, seriously? Like, what are you doing? So half of it is men, what are you doing? And half of it is women, are you open to receiving pleasure? Are you open to receiving pleasure? And I gave the example of, if your partner came to you and said, baby, it's all about you tonight. I just want to take care of you. Would you be okay with that? Would you be able to receive and be like, thanks, babe, and go to sleep? I guarantee you most women wouldn't. They would feel obligated to return the favor, even if it's just that one night. Like maybe it's Valentine's Day, maybe it's your birthday, maybe he's feeling really good and just wants to take care of you. There is nothing wrong with that. So really ask yourself, am I open to receiving pleasure? So what I want to do with this part of the episode, because like I said, I'm going to do a part 2 because we've already been talking. I've already been talking for a while. So this part 1 is helping you identify where you may be blocking receiving, identify where you're not open to abundance and help and feedback and pleasure. And when I say open to feedback, sometimes people give unsolicited feedback, and that's not always a good thing. So really setting healthy boundaries. However, in order to grow, we have to learn. And sometimes people are able to identify our blind spots. And so I always say take feedback from people who have or are doing the things that you want. So pay attention to who you're receiving feedback from. But even in situations, so like, I'm a sound therapist. I always work with coaches, and I have a therapist. I have a coach. So I have all these people that I pay for their feedback. Even when people pay someone for feedback, there is still resistance. So are you open to receiving the lessons that you need to learn, the growth that needs to happen in order for you to step into who you're meant to be? So even if you're paying someone, because when it comes to receiving feedback from friends and family, especially if they don't have the life or relationship or business that you desire, take it with a grain of salt, period. But when it comes to having a therapist, a coach, a sound healer, or any type of energy healer, or wellness consultant, whatever it is, are you open to receiving it? Are you open to receiving the wisdom, the lesson, the feedback, the areas where you may have a blind spot? So definitely something to start to pay attention to. So just to wrap up this episode, when someone offers you a compliment, say thank you. And however thank you shows up for you, you don't have to just say thank you. You could be like, the way I speak, I'm like, oh my God, thanks. That's how I talk. But however it feels good for you, just say thank you. Don't feel obligated to return a compliment, and also don't diminish whatever the compliment is. Bask in that feeling of receiving. Bask in that feeling of receiving a compliment. Allow it to make you feel good. And when someone offers you help, take it. Even if you're at the grocery store and it's just someone helping you to your car, take it. Allow the help. Allow it to be easy. If you haven't written it down already, I want you to write it down and put it somewhere where you can see it every single day. Allow it to be easy. We could have had it hard through our childhood. We could have had it hard just starting our first business or having our first child, whatever the case may be. Allow it to be easy now. We're not looking back because you're programmed to believe that it's hard. Any area where you can allow ease, allow it in. Turn on those receiving receptors. Get in the receiving mode and allow the abundance in, allow it to be easy. If someone offers to open the door for you or just opens the door for you, thank them and feel good about that. Like, oh, that was easy. Anytime I have an opportunity to say that was easy, they have one of those little buttons too that you can hit. I don't have a button, but I always, even if I say it out loud, and I could be alone, sometimes I talk to myself. But anytime I have an opportunity to say that was easy, it's me sending gratitude to the universe and letting the universe know that I am in a receiving mode for more ease in my life. So start to pay attention to where things are easy and allow it. Be in that receptive mode. And if your partner wants to please you, and this is specifically for the ladies, okay? If your partner says, babe, tonight is all about you, allow it and thank me later. Thank me later. You could send some flowers or something to the studio. But really start to open yourself up to receiving, open yourself up to receiving pleasure, receiving abundance, receiving joy, receiving compliments, receiving gifts. Life is meant to be abundant. Now, if you're like, okay, well, how do I turn on this receiving receptor? If you're like, how do I get in a receiving mode? I am going to dive into that in part 2. But for now, start to pay attention. And it doesn't happen overnight. Having awareness around these things is half of the battle. The other half is starting to actively shift it and embody it. So actually integrating it into your life. So for now, what I want you to do is start paying attention to where you may have resistance around receiving. Just start to notice it and just start to make the little shifts. So when someone gives you a compliment, saying thank you. When someone offers you a tip, accepting it. When someone goes to open a door for you or says, can I help you with that? Allow them to. Allow them to. And just start to feel into what that feels like for you. And also start to pay attention to where things feel easy and where things feel abundant. Okay? And I will be back with part 2 next week because this is such a good topic. I think that it's a good topic for everyone because we live in a society where we have been programmed out of the things that we desire. We've been programmed out of them. And so it's up to us to get back to who we are at our core and really identify the things that we need to make us feel abundant and fulfilled. And being in the receiving mode is a huge part of feeling fulfilled and allowing abundance in. The abundance is already there. It's already in our vortex. It's just allowing it in. And so if you found value in this, definitely let me know. If there's something specific that stood out to you that you want me to dive deeper into, definitely let me know. And if you know someone that needs to hear this episode, please share it. Also, I just heard that Spotify allows you to rate podcasts now. So I would absolutely love if you head over to Spotify and give me a 5-star rating. I will gladly receive that 5-star rating with tons of gratitude. And yeah, so let me know what you think about this, and I will be back with how to get in the receiving mode. Abraham Hicks definitely talks about getting into the receiving mode, so this is one of my favorite topics. So I am excited to hear what you have to say about this episode, what you want me to dive into deeper more in the future. And until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.